welcome back here to Baltimore's Camden Yards. Tom Davis joined now from the Baltimore Sun. We've got Ed Encina all the way down that end. John Meoli here in the middle. We're going to talk a little Orioles baseball. And Ed, let's talk about Joey Rickard. It looks like he might be ready to come back on Friday. What do you got?
Yeah, Joey Rickard's going to come back, or he's ready to come back from a rehab assignment. He's played 3 games down in Delmarva. He played a doubleheader today as a DH. There were a couple of rainouts, made this a little tricky. But long story short, he's ready to come back Friday. And it's kind of an important time for him to come back right now because the Orioles are heading to New York. They're going to face a couple lefties there. It allows Buck Showalter to really kind of have the same rotation of outfielders that he had on opening day, which allows him to really kind of play matchups and really use kind of the other guys who don't start as weapons off the bench.
Yeah, and with Rickard, it's always about, with this team, you're talking about the counter moves that get made when somebody has to come off the disabled list. Rickard was one of them. You thought this was going to be a year where there are a lot of roster moves when they start with just 3 starting pitchers, and Wade Miley comes off right when Rickard has to go on the DL. They call up Alec Asher. You think it's just for one day, and then Zach Britton has to go on the DL. So while they might have to take a little bit of a hit for the pitching staff to get Rickard back on the roster, I think Buck Showalter is really going to like what this does for his bench going forward.
So some of the Orioles are struggling hitting. There's no doubt about that. Mark Trumbo and Manny Machado combined. I mean, Ed, what are you seeing here? I mean, Buck acts like they're going to break out any moment, I think.
Yeah, you have to think so. I mean, these guys are too good to be struggling like this. And, just kind of looking back, you still look at Mark Trumbo yesterday. He struck out in his first at-bat, but he fell behind 0-2, worked the count full, and struck out. But so you think he's working some good at-bats here, and it's just a matter of time. With Machado, it looks like he's hitting the ball hard. It's just going to spots right at fielders. Yesterday, I think his last out of the game was a 103-mile-an-hour hit, which was the hardest ball that the Orioles hit all day yesterday against Tampa Bay. So I think it's probably just a matter of time before these guys are breakout. It just takes one hit, being able to just put something together, and before you know it, it's something you forget about.
Yeah, and you have to remember last year this team had a great April, and it was because of Mark Trumbo, because of Manny Machado, and what they were able to do. Trumbo and Machado were 2 of the hottest hitters in baseball in April, and they kind of helped this team to a really good start. And they're off to another good start without 2 of those guys that they're counting on. Jonathan Scope has picked up some of the slack. Trey Mancini, when he's in there, has picked up some of the slack. They're really getting production from a lot of places. Adam Jones is another guy who's having a really good season kind of to help pick those guys up. With this lineup that everyone's going to click at one point or another. When it clicks everyone at the same time, you have a month like June when they were one of the best offensive teams in baseball. But someone's always going to be there, and I think that both Machado and Trumbo are expecting that it's going to be them sooner rather than later.
And how about this start by the Orioles? Are you surprised by it, or do you just thought it could be this way?
I mean, I think more than anything, not necessarily surprises the record, but more maybe what you've seen from the starting pitching, and that you've seen that these guys have gotten deep into games, and that they've carried it over to the bullpen, and everyone knows how good the bullpen is. But I think that's really been kind of maybe a little bit more of the surprise, especially without Chris Tillman. And I know the Bucks really use this roster and the scheduling and the off days to their advantage. But when you think about the start they've gotten, and really that the offense really hasn't picked up to this point, I think they're in good shape right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's vintage Orioles when you think about it. They're winning a lot of close games. When they are scoring, it's because they're hitting home runs in bunches. This is something that, especially against division opponents, when they're really trying to set a tone early. You remember last April, they had a great start, and it ended up basically carrying them through the second half when they were kind of struggling a little bit. So when you look at it, I think they have to be really encouraged with what they're getting from, the starting rotation, the bullpen, and those guys that are hitting.
And we appreciate the information, the conversation. Ed Encina and John Meoli from the Baltimore Sun. They cover the Orioles on a daily basis.